Hey everyone, it's your professional sarcastic man and seeker of attention Chris here with a review of Ultraman Volume 1. So the second of my manga reviews is based on a series whose genre I'm a big fan of, the tokusatsu genre, which you don't, if anyone doesn't know what tokusatsu is, if you know what Power Rangers is, its source material, Super Sentai, is tokusatsu. So it's basically live action Japanese series that use a lot of special effects. And this one is its own separate version of the tokusatsu called Ultraman. And when I heard there was an Ultraman manga, and then my my LCS was releasing it, I knew I had to get it. I'm not really that much of an Ultraman fan. There's a lot of history behind it. And it's not really highly accessible. I know Crunchyroll, since they started licensing the recent series, they've gotten a hold of some of the previous ones and have been streaming it on there. But apart from that, it's kind of hard to find a lot of the very original from the start. So if you don't want to really go into the TV series and the films, you have this. So with this series, it's a retelling slash sequel to the first Ultraman. Like from the very beginning, it takes place in its own separate continuity, where Shin Hayata, the host for Ultraman, after he separated with it, having lost his memories, had a family, and pretty much just it's essentially what if Ultraman was the only Ultra, because there are no other actual giant of lights. That's what they're called, the Ultras. There's only one mentioned in passing, and then there's the host Shin, there's his son Shinjiro, who is the new Ultraman, and then there's later on in the series there's their own versions of past ones. So Ultraman like Ultra 7, Ace, Jack, Taro, it's their own iterations, their own versions of it, since it's in its own continuity, which I like when they do a nod to. They did it with one of the characters who is who's the host to one of the Ultramen, and he's wearing a bracelet that looks similar to his transformation device. And I do like that, since this is written by Ultraman fans. So it's in good hands. So basically with this, it just starts off with a very short introduction explaining essentially just the first series. Just once there was a being known as the Giant of Light, who merged with an Earthling and saved the planet countless times from acts of chaos and destruction caused by alien invasions and giant creatures called kaiju. And eventually the Giant of Light fulfilled his mission and returned to his home in deep space. The Earthling lost all memory of the pairing and returned to life as a normal human. So it just gives you a quick introduction. You don't need to watch the series to read the manga. I mean, it's a bonus if you know who the characters are and who a couple of the races are. There's only one kind of iconic race from the series that's in there. But it's essentially, you could just pick this up and it'll just tell you everything. You'll understand it. It's not like most stuff nowadays where it's like here's this thing, and if you want to understand it by this book, that book, read this, watch this TV series. Is a lot of like expanded material stuff that fill in the gaps of a lazily written story. So basically, we start off with a kind of an introduction to Shin, reintroduction to Shin. I do like this. It kind of sets it up. It's like, oh my god, this is an Ultraman battle, and it's just no, it's just a toy. It just model like figurines of that Shin's son Shinjiro is watching since he's a fan of Ultraman, and it kind of sets up that there's something special with Shinjiro since he survives a fall from a balcony with no harm whatsoever. And eventually Shin regains all memory of his time as Ultraman. Because he has something, they've inherited the Ultraman factor, hence why Shinjiro was not harmed when he fell, because he has powers. Basically, see, he can fly. And this is although it's a continuation of an alternate continuation of Ultraman, this is a whole new story for Shinjiro. It's his story. He's the new hero, and it's I believe it was Mega Gears. Mega Gears did a video about this. It's essentially a coming of age. It's someone who has powers but has to hide it, and finally being able to use those powers to his kind of fullest extent to actually help people to be like the person he grew up idolizing, unintentionally his own father. And we get the introduction to his first villain, Bamula, who is a homage to Ultraman's first kaiju that he faces of the same name. But with this one, they've reimagined him as a humanoid Ultraman-like alien, which I do like, because you'll notice with the big thing, if you've seen Ultraman, and there's a reason why they're called Giants of Light, because they're tall, they're very tall, they're giants. With this one, it's all scaled down, so they essentially turn them into Kamen Riders. Essentially what it is, because they wear armor. It's not like they don't turn into a separate being. They just put armor on that's inspired by Ultraman. So we have an introduction to Bamula, and like I said, he's an homage to the original Bamula. So it's very fitting that he becomes the kind of he's the first villain and then main antagonist for this new Ultraman. See, this is this is what happens when you have fans write a alternate continuation well, or kind of making homages. This could easily just been fan fiction, and it would actually be good fan fiction. And then we have Shinjiro realizes that his father was Ultraman, and I do like that they don't just make him straight up, it's just like, oh, I'm Ultraman again, I'm gonna definitely beat the crap out of Bamula and win this fight. No, he's an old dude. He may have power armor, but he's not invincible, considering the fact, Bamula has heaps of tricks and is able to hold off his own against him. And we go through and we have the introduction to Shinjiro as Ultraman. And I really do like the suit design. It's essentially the whole idea of it is if Ultraman was just armor. Essentially, if Ultraman was Iron Man, that's it. Since everything, all the ray blasts, the Specium ray, I think it's called. Like the design of the helmet, it's very Iron Man inspired. So it's essentially like if Iron Man if Iron Man designed Ultraman armor, that's essentially what it is. And we just have this nice just fight scene between him and Bermula, and just essentially setting up their rivalry, because Bermula makes kind of recurring appearances later on in the next few volumes, and just to set him up as the villain for Shinjiro. There is other villains, but he is the villain, and I think we still don't really know like 100% what his intentions are, and or what he actually really looks like, because we get a small hint of what he truly looks like, and it could actually look similar to the original Bermula from the TV series. We just don't know, because it's at least with the English releases for the volumes, it's been a while. It's been a few months. 9 was released I think a couple of few months ago, and there hasn't been anything up yet. I think there's another volume coming up later in the next few months, but it's something like I want to know what Bermula is doing. Just the simple things. It's like, why is he doing this? Why is he Ultraman's enemy? Something to get me enthralled into the story and wanting to keep reading more. And yeah, that's it. And I do like these little like small parts at the end where the authors and illustrators are kind of like talking about their journey making this manga, and actually meeting, like going to Subaraya Productions, who produces Ultraman, and pretty much it's not only are we following like the journey of the characters they've created, we're actually following their journey as well, because this is their lifelong passion come true. Because even here, when it says like, we used to fanatically watch reruns of Ultraman as kids, we never dreamed we'd be working on an Ultraman manga several decades later. So we offer Ultraman to you, packed with several decades worth of love. We hope you enjoy it. This is kind of like, this is their dream come true. Which I really liked about that. It's just, I think everyone has that dream, like, there's something they want to write for come true, like whether it's like for a comic or for a TV show, for anime or whatever. And theirs came true. And it's great. It's absolutely great. I would definitely recommend this. Like I said, you don't need to watch the TV show to understand this. This is its own separate entity, and it works great. This is the beginning of a new age of Ultraman, and along with the TV show, like, Ultraman is beginning to resurge again. A lot of the previous series, like current series, was it X, Orb, Geed, they've kind of increased the popularity of Ultraman, because for a while it was just basically Kamen Rider and Super Sentai. Ultraman was just kind of in the background. It used to be popular, and it died down a little. It still existed. It's still a continual thing. It doesn't get a lot of attention and praise as it should. But with the series and the manga, it's bringing its foot back in, and kind of bringing back like the old days when it used to be the huge big hit it was. So that's it for my review. If you haven't picked up Ultraman, pick it up, read it. I definitely recommend it. like I said before, I feel like I'm repeating myself constantly. This happens when I'm sick. I make terrible jokes and I repeat myself constantly. So that's it for the review. I'll see you all next time.